In this video, we are going to talk about symmetry of body mechanics for cyclists. Now, before we get rolling, I want you to repeat after me. And let's agree that all cyclists are in fact humans. Fair? Humans are not that symmetrical. Did you repeat it? I'll give you another chance. Humans are not that symmetrical. That is the premise on which we need to have this discussion. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Sprinter's Lounge. This is Sonic the Hedgehog. He is our resident sprinter. My name is Robbie. I help cyclists ride hard with no back pain. Symmetry, hot button issue. It's a question that I get a lot. How symmetrical do I need to be? How balanced? How even? How do I know? Down the road, what do I need to do to make sure I can stay symmetrical? So there's one thing I didn't touch on when I originally filmed this video. If you've got a pain problem, you've put in the work to fix that, that is a pretty good indicator that you've got your body in a solid sweet spot. And it's balanced enough to not drive too much stress up to your back or elsewhere. That said, as cyclists, we don't really want to stop at like just not having pain. So really what we're looking at here is the performance side of it, the durability side of it, the longevity side of it, and obviously making sure that we're preventing that issue from coming back in the first place. So this video, coming from someone who works with cyclists with back pain so they can ride hard without it, is largely about the nuance of balance for a cyclist, symmetry for a cyclist, in a way that promotes performance and longevity. And in fact, I just had a long-term athlete ask me this. So we've worked in a few different blocks, and his question, just a little bit of a preamble here. It's like, okay, given where we're at right now, bike fitting changes, all this other stuff, what are we looking at going forward in terms of how we target symmetry? But the question can be asked in isolation too. How symmetrical do I need to be? How much balance are we actually targeting? Well, there is some nuance to this question because humans are not perfectly symmetrical. Got a heart over here, 2 lobes of the lung, 3 lobes of the lung, spleen over here, liver over here. Our kidneys hang at different heights and our balls hang at different heights. Sorry about that one, ladies, but it's the truth. And it's not just the internal organs that we're talking here. We have some differences in our pelvis and our hip structure that makes us not fully symmetrical. By the way, we could talk shoulders, feet, etc. here, but I'll leave it at that. There are some differences in our skeletal system that make us not that symmetrical. For a cyclist, what does it mean to be symmetrical and balanced? And like I said, there is some nuance here because one, our bodies, as they're made, created, whatever, are not that symmetrical. Number two, as adults, we have all picked up some baggage along the way in terms of our movement patterns. So there's those two things, right? Not that symmetrical in the first place, and we've picked up some junk that's made us less symmetrical. That said, one of the big things, keeping in mind that I work with cyclists with back pain, sciatica, saddle pressure problems, sometimes power imbalance problems, correcting imbalances in a very pragmatic way, it is important because when we do a deep assessment, we can understand what imbalances may drive too much stress to the back. And once we know that, we know what pieces to put into place. But what are we targeting? There's a couple of analogies that I use here because there's actually not a perfect gift wrapped answer. Like, I don't know about you, but like I'm kind of a sloppy Christmas present wrapper. Like I've just never got like the pristine wrapping, right? Which is good for this analogy because ultimately the answer to this question is a box that I wrapped in wrapping paper that it's just not going to be the perfect black and white answer. But what are we looking for? There's several things we can use, and maybe you have some of your own where you know when like your body's a little bit off if you've been training hard, or even if you've taken time off the bike, you have these signals that your body gives you that things are a little bit off. The first one is the most basic. It's how balanced do we feel in our pedal stroke? Do we feel like there's some crazy stuff happening to where we're favoring one side or the other? The second piece that I like to use is how square and centered do we feel in the saddle? We can use saddle pressure and potentially the development of saddle sores as a marker there to show us where we're at. But even aside from having a pressure problem, how centered do we feel in the saddle? Where's that brain-butt connection, if you will, in terms of our position on the saddle? And then the third one, it's concrete, but there's an asterisk here. The third one is power balance side to side. Now, power balance side to side is a little bit interesting. This is an example that I've used a lot. There's probably hundreds of them, but one sticks out in my mind. Neilson Powless beat like those 3 Visma guys in I forget which spring classic a few years ago. His power for the whole race was 53.47. So not the end of the world to be shifted that way, right? But we can use the power imbalance if we're looking at 50-50 as a theoretical perfect gold standard. How far are we deviating from that? How often do we deviate away from it and or back? And really, the big thing is if we get stuck on the other side of 55-45, like that's the best it gets, we're up towards 60-40, that's where we know that, yeah, we've got quite a bit of work to do. But power balance is a way to put an actual number to the symmetry of our body. Now, it doesn't guarantee that your mechanics are totally symmetrical, but it sure does guarantee that the output is symmetrical. So there's a couple things that we're measuring there, right? We're measuring the inputs, which is how your body moves and how the different parts move. Then we're measuring the outputs, how it feels, how centered you are in the saddle, maybe what your power balance numbers look like. There's a few analogies that we can use here. Both of the 2 that I'm going to give you demonstrate this concept of finding balance and symmetry more as a journey than a destination to arrive at. The first one, pretty simple. If we have a road and we are cruising down the road in the correct lane, we want to keep it in between the lines. How do we know that it's in between the lines? Well, we can see it. So if we video ourselves on the bike, we look at our power balance numbers. We can feel it. We may have some rumble strips over here, maybe some rumble strips on the center that show us if we're a bit off there. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is that there's this range of where we can be in this lane. We don't have to be on one single tire track or one set of tire tracks going down the lane. There's a cop sitting right behind us, both driving the speed limit, cruising along. If we're like, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, and not just weaving around the road, like we're going to be fine. He's not going to pull us over. But if we're all the way over here, all the way over there, yeah, flashing blue and red lights. All right, we're down the rabbit hole there. We're looking for a range in terms of what we can see and feel. And a lot of it is, it's a feeling thing, right? There's a subjectivity to it. But do I feel solid on the saddle? Do I feel solid in my pedal stroke? Does this hold up when I ride long? Does this hold up when I ride hard? Does this hold up when I'm in a big training block and my body is just freaking tired? Fairly simple, right? We're looking at it from a keep it between the navigational beacons. I think that was Alan Jackson that said that. Another analogy, if we go a little bit further here, is that of, oh boy, pause. The other analogy that I've got for you is that of a pirate ship with a captain captaining the pirate ship. So we've got our home base. This is where we store all our treasure. But eventually, we're going to have to sail around to these various islands, X marks the spot, palm trees, all of that good stuff, to find new treasure to bring back home. What am I getting at here? There are going to be times through our life and our training that we get ourselves a little bit off track. So the big thing is to have an understanding, whether it's by power balance numbers, feel in the saddle, or just overall sensation that we've got the imbalances under control, that we're in fact in a good spot, that we know where our home island is. Some people have a very good idea of this. Others, not so much. But when you know where that home island is, you're going to go on your adventures in life. You're going to ride your bike a lot. You may go through some big training blocks. And as you get further out from home, you've got to know what it takes to get back. And so that's where we talk about putting the right things in place, both in terms of the off-the-bike strategies and some of the work that we do on the bike to hone that balance. What do we look for here? We look for open hips. We look for a good foot-hip connection through the entire pedal stroke. We look for a strong back, a strong spine, strong supporting muscles so that we can hold that position for hours and hours. And the main thing we want to know is when we've deviated from our home island, how do we get back? what are the basic strategies we need to be able to get back to feeling super comfortable again. And that is where I say this is a journey and not an endpoint. You are looking to feel a specific set of things. Sorry, super scientific, I know. You're looking to feel a certain specific set of things to where you know, yeah, my body's in a good spot. Once you've done that, and you know what it takes to get there, you have a repeatable plan so that even when you get off track a little bit, you know the things that you need to draw back to. That is almost always a combination of mobility work, strength training, and honing and rehoning your position on the bike to maintain that happy place of being able to pedal, feeling like the body is balanced out, that it can handle hard rides, that it can handle long rides, and that it can handle big training blocks. So the big thing on symmetry, a couple of takeaways. We're not that symmetrical. We don't need perfect symmetry. We're not chasing it. It's not what we're going for. We're chasing the sweet spot for ourselves to know when our body's in a good spot versus when it's in a little bit less of a good spot and we need to draw back to some of that foundational work to get us back home to the right island, to get us back in the middle of the lane, to get us feeling like we're in that sweet spot of balance on and off the bike. A little bit of a different flavor in this video today. Let me know what you think in the comments. Talk to you next time.